Yeah, so welcome to the Open for Business podcast. I'm Mark Lapierre. Today I have Andrew Chenard from Wilkie's Bakery. Andrew's had his bakery for how many years now?
Just over a year and a half.
But he comes from a family of bakers and entrepreneurs. So glad to have Andrew on board. This podcast we're doing here is to showcase entrepreneurialism, get people to open up about the good, the bad, and the ugly about being self-employed and being an entrepreneur. So welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
So just like you said, want to chat about who you are. So we'll tell us about who you are and your business that you're currently doing.
So I am a fourth generation baker. Skipped a few generations, but my great-great-grandfather had a bakery. So if I were to introduce myself, I'd say I'm my great-great-grandfather's son.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a transplant to the area. I've been here for just over 20 years, but supposedly you got to be here for 30 to be local.
Really? Yeah.
That's what they say.
But you're not that old though. How old are you?
I'm 26.
Yeah. So I mean, you basically grew up here.
Yeah, moved here when I was 6 years old. So I think I started school here. So I should be local, but I'm not. So I'm a proud Army brat in that way. The military brought us here, and my parents fell in love with the community. So we stayed. We spread our roots. And
So mom and dad both in the military?
no, just my father.
Just your father. And
Yeah.
Did your father, once you guys got posted here, you never moved again?
He did a few IR postings when we were in college and university, but
you never moved?
No, he made sure that we finished high school here.
Cool.
That was one of his main goals. And then I went away to post-secondary education at Algonquin in Ottawa. Took hotel restaurant management and the culinary management. Knew the food scene was where I needed to be. And then it just grew into a love of baking that I've always had, so I just developed it.
So that's something that you've had ingrained in you since you were a kid. Who got you into baking?
I actually used to do it as a stress reliever.
Yeah.
So my poor family used to eat chocolate chip cookies 3 times a month. And then I started experimenting, and then some of them worked out, some of them didn't. My father loves to tell the story where I decided to make pancakes for everybody for dinner and put 21... I was reading a recipe, and I read 21 teaspoons of baking powder.
Yeah.
Nope, it was 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, so it just overflowed constantly. So we were whipping it as we were pouring it into the pan. So yeah, everything you learn as you go and find your way.
Awesome, man. So tell me about the typical day for you, because I know I follow your social media and you're often up early, as I am.
Yes.
So I'm up often early hunting.
Yeah.
And the social media landscape is pretty quiet at 4 a.m. But
So you're not checking your phone while you're hunting, are you?
Oh, of course I am. Of course I am. But here's Andrew up at 4 a.m. baking. So tell me about your days.
So I get up at 4. I'm in the bakery by 4:15. Ovens go on, and I just bake until 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Doors open, so that's how fresh everything is. We make sure that whatever we're selling is baked off when we open, because it's the worst thing to go into a bakery at 10 o'clock and be well, the bread doesn't come out till 2. Although there's certain places that work with the mentality of fresh bread for dinner, toast for breakfast. So they want the fresh bread at 2 o'clock, not at 9.
Yeah.
But we found in this community it works best to have fresh bread right in the morning. So as I walk into the bakery, I'm baking bread, mixing dough for the day after, prepping cookie dough, prepping sandwiches. Got 7 different things going on at one time. But it's just me and a few really bad rap songs going.
I was going to say, you must have some tunes going on in the background.
I'm just blaring. When we first opened, we didn't have anybody above us. So I was blaring Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, everything. So
Yeah, those are terrible songs.
yeah, terrible.
But hey, whatever you're into.
But I'm up before the morning crew on the radio's up. So, and then as soon as the radio crew usually comes on, I usually click it to Star 96 or my FM.
And then you feel like there's people there with
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Conversations with them.
Cool.
They never reply.
And so you open the bakery for what time?
7:30.
7:30 people. And
Yeah.
do people start coming in right away?
Yeah, we have a good coffee crowd in the morning. We started doing more breakfast style food, so it's like really good grab and go stuff. Yeah, and then we're busy up until like 10:30,
Mm-hmm.
and then lunch starts around 11:30. So
Cool. No, I've eaten at your place and had coffee at your place all different times of day, and I haven't yet to have anything bad. So
thank you.
I'm also not I'm not a picky eater either. So everything you've made has been great.
Thank you. Try to keep it not too hipster.
I know too. You've often you've been a part of these community things where you make, like the baked goods for the community type deal. So we've often
Yes.
had them at our office.
Yeah, we did the coffee morning
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
hospital. Yeah.
Stuff like that's pretty cool. So you spend the day. You have staff.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
so what-
are a team of 3 right now.
Okay. So what time do your staff come in then?
They come in around 8:30, and they do a lot of the production bakery, standardized like cookie stuff. They make our cakes, banana bread, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually float from the front to the back, helping whenever
And what's
I
your
can.
what's your favorite thing to make there?
It'd be silly to say bread, but it is bread.
Bread.
Yeah. I
That's-
love experimenting with different flavors. We did a sriracha sourdough this
I
weekend.
saw that.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any left?
No.
No, all gone.
So, yeah.
Is it gonna make more?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Where we want to put it into our weekly rotation. We had
Cool.
people like racing in to get it. So
Tell me about that weekly rotation. So you have stuff that's only available on certain times of the week.
yes. So every day we do 4 or 5 different types of bread. We like to do one that's like a grainier whole wheat vegan bread, one that's like a flavored sourdough, and then a few classic breads. The flavored sourdoughs are anything from like cheddar jalapeno to sriracha or honey date.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on what we're feeling like.
Whatever you're.
Although there's standard breads for each day, and then sometimes we throw in experiments.
Do you ever end up, or how often do you end up with throwaway stuff?
Not a lot.
No.
I've learned to, if there are extra loaves, we make sandwiches and like specials and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We started making bread bowls, which is like you can order them, and it's like a spinach dip inside a bread
Yeah.
bowl that the insides are torn apart.
Mhm.
So a lot of people have started ordering that for like office parties and stuff. So
Cool. From the marketing end of things, we've talked about social media. So you've been in business a little over a year. How are you getting people in your doors?
mainly social media
Yeah.
and
And word of mouth, obviously, right? Like
yeah,
you-
word of mouth and networking,
Mhm.
trying to access different networks. And we, going into it, I knew I wanted to support the community as much as possible, and I knew that would be a very stable way of accessing these networks. So we like to say we support those who support us. So we support the hospital foundation. We're working on different fundraisers with other community
You
leaders.
were just at the Columbus House Gala on the weekend,
Yes, that was a fun
which
gala
I'm
to
sorry
take
I
part
missed,
of.
but apparently it was a great time.
Yes. The Kiwanis Music Festival, Silver Stick, name a few. We did the Cancer Society. A month of October, we did pink cupcakes on Wednesdays.
Cool. I see you got your mustache going.
Yes.
Okay, for Movember.
Yeah.
Do you have a donation page?
We don't have a donation page, but we're selling Movember sandwich cookies. So.
Cool. Any proceeds going to cancer?
Yeah, they're all. We're covering the cost, and then the rest of it's going to
Cool.
Movember.
So I want to go back a little bit to your origins of not so maybe much baking, but of entrepreneurship. So your mom is also a self-employed, correct?
Yes.
How long?
She's trying to kill me for not knowing this. I feel like it's 5 years, but probably more. 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. 5 years.
Yeah. So what was her background? Like she.
So she started prior to the 5 years, she was doing event decor and some planning, and then she discovered the Crazy Beautiful Dresses was for sale, and then took a leap of faith and hasn't looked back since.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot of entrepreneurship. That's a big word. Goes for like it's hardworking. You do whatever you can to survive. So I grew up with like dad was always on tour, or on course somewhere, or like working hard.
Did your mom work out of the house?
No, she she worked at A Channel, or she was at the new RO, and then it became
Yeah.
A Channel, and then
It became People Don't Watch TV Anymore.
yeah, video podcast.
Here we go.
And then she worked for Algonquin College. So like she always worked hard, and
Yeah.
it was like drilled into us to work hard until you get what you want, and then build it, and don't look back. So
Because your mom's made a bit of a name for herself in the
Yes.
Pembroke entrepreneurial landscape, and you're following suit there as well. So that's kind of neat.
it was great though when she did her announcement that she was moving downtown.
Yeah.
The mayor referred to her as Andrew's mom. I wasn't Kim
You're like,
Chenard's son
"Yes."
anymore. I was,
Yeah.
yeah, she was my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So that means that people knew who you were then, and
Yeah.
she was following you now.
Yes.
Um,
But she loves being downtown, so.
yeah. I was driving by downtown on the weekend. Was ripping up from where I live through up to the west end of Pembroke. It's starting to look good down here.
Yeah.
And that's coming from somebody who's lived here for 35 years. There's not a lot of empty storefronts,
No. And it's really grown organically, which is
Yeah.
nice.
you know.
Like it doesn't seem forced.
And I'm noticing some of these new business owners are your age or our age. You know, they're kind of, we'll say, younger in some of these niche businesses that maybe were one time almost gobbled up by the Walmarts of the world. You know, do you see people going back to the DIY slash, you know, go to a bakery for your bread and go to the butcher
Yeah,
shop?
we see a lot of that with the farmers market. Whenever it's in season, they come to us for the bread, and then they go there for the vegetables and the meat. And nowadays, especially in the holidays, people are now putting together like extravagant gift baskets and like Urban Gourmet, Calabine. Everybody's just like, and they're all working off of we're all working off of each other. We're not.
You're competitors, but you're not.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We compete for the same piece of the pie, but we are glad to serve you the whole pie.
Yeah.
That
So it's
makes
a
any sense.
collaboration
Yeah.
of business owners, which is great. What's the girl, Taylor, that does the boxes? I forget her
Yeah.
her business name, but I see her putting those boxes together,
Yeah.
and collaborating with 8 or 10 different business owners. That kind of stuff's cool. I have a collaboration with Dan from Engine House with my coffee, which you have at your shop.
Yeah.
You know,
That coffee's amazing.
You know, when I send people ask me where they get the coffee, I just send them to your shop.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Thank
sell
you.
coffee. Like I'm not in the coffee sale business, more so as much as Dan is.
Yeah.
But I want to have that labeled coffee, but I don't want to sell coffee a bag at a time.
Yeah, the day we got it, we brewed it, and I was like, let's go, it's Friday.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, it's a highly caffeinated coffee for people like Andrew and I that get up at stupid hours.
Yeah. Fuels you for your day, too.
It does, and I've given it to people that are coffee drinkers, and they're like, "Man, what's in that coffee?" It's just like they're vibing,
Yeah.
you know. So that's an example of a collaboration. There's a 3-way collaboration there between 3 local business owners, and Dan's a guy that I want to get on this podcast at some juncture.
Yeah.
I had him on my Go Hunt Birds podcast. I don't know if you listen to my podcast at
No, I
all, but
don't.
you got to do that.
Yes. I'll work that in with the Lil Wayne and.
Throw that in. It's
In the
on.
morning.
I don't know. What do you listen to your music? Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my Go Hunt Birds podcasts are on Spotify.
Awesome.
Listen to the coffee one. It's pretty interesting to see the history, like how much stuff like he knows about coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Be like you talking to you about bread,
Yeah.
you know, or baking, and all the little tricks and the nuances.
I've gone to his place and roasted coffee, and then the day later he came to
Yeah.
our bakery and made bread with
Yeah,
us.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a Go Hunt Birds bread of some sort.
Yeah,
We'll have
maybe.
to talk about that.
Yeah.
Some duck sandwiches, maybe.
That
Eh?
would be good.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, being self-employed, what did you do before you were your own business?
My first taste of the hospitality world was at Boston Pizza in Pembroke.
Okay.
With Normie and Daryl.
Yeah.
They were amazing people to work for. They taught me pretty much everything I know. And then once I left Pembroke to go to post-secondary, I worked at Bridgehead in Ottawa, which is a amazing locally owned, operated coffee chain in Ottawa. I was a night baker there. Also worked at Big Rig
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was a server there. So
Do you
they taught me
Chris
a lot
Phillips?
of. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the question?
About working and how you got into the entrepreneurial landscape and what you did before that.
Oh, okay.
We're off track here.
Yeah.
What'd you do? So you worked at Big Rig?
Worked at
before that,
Big
you were-
Rig.
yeah.
Met my partner, and then realized that we needed to move back home because we liked the scene that was going on downtown, or not downtown, but like in Pembroke. It was becoming alive again, and we realized we were spending every weekend we could back in the valley. So then moved home, worked at Boston Pizza for a bit, and then worked out a bit at Jana's, and then started the farmers market booth in Carp.
You did that so were you baking at home then?
No, I was
No.
baking with, I was renting space out of Schmidt's Catering
Okay.
on Whitewater Road.
Yeah. From the Ewerts.
Yeah, Eric and Robin.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, they're amazing people. So we operated the farmers market booth for a year, and then realized like we needed to keep building, and then we realized we needed our own space, so we grew into the space downtown.
Awesome, and that's where you are now. Now,
Yeah.
what? Any plans to get bigger? You don't know. What?
It's like standing on a cliff, being like, "Do I jump or do I not
Yeah.
jump?" Yeah, not knowing what's starting.
Like, are you at capacity there?
Some
Some
days.
days?
Yeah, like we did Garlic Fest and Carp this year, and we did just like a ridiculous amount of bread, but we could have made more and sold more. But the ovens turned on at 3, and 2 o'clock the next morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock the next morning, I was like lying on the floor waiting for the bread to finish because I was like done. So we were kind of at capacity, but at the same time, we made a lot of bread in that
Short period of time,
23-hour period.
Yeah, but I mean that's a one-off.
Yeah, that's a one day of the year. So it's like, do you buy all the equipment for one day, or?
As far as competition, I mean, we don't have to go into names, but do you find there's enough room for everyone? And I mean, even using like, you know, Walmart has a bakery. I think Monsios or Metro has a bakery.
I think there's enough room for everybody, and
Yeah.
not that Walmart's looking at my stuff or I'm looking at Walmart
Yeah.
stuff, but the
Different.
smaller businesses, I like to look at what they have so that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
But like, we're all going to serve coffee. We're all going to serve some kind of breakfast item. So we do kind of have overlapping products, but we all have stuff that makes us unique.
Yeah, like I know in
So-
the financial services world, there's, you know, we have the banks obviously, and then there's about 20 or so of advisors within
Yeah.
a small circle, and there's more than enough people for us to serve. You know,
Yeah.
people who they like for whatever reasons, and you know, some people want a female advisor, someone want an older person, someone wants somebody young. So
Yeah.
it's competition is always a healthy thing, I think.
Yeah. And it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. And so the premise of this is to kind of help other people that are getting into business. So you're a good example because you're a year plus in. So tell me the steps you took to get into business. So are you sole proprietor? Are you incorporated? Are you?
I'm not incorporated. I guess I'm a sole proprietor. I knew from the very beginning that I could not do accounting.
Mhm.
I pretty much failed that in college.
Yeah.
Um,
So you actually have a hired accountant?
yeah,
You have
I
a
hired an
bookkeeper?
accountant. Or a
Bookkeeper, accountant, same thing? Same person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some
Was I-
people have a bookkeeper, and then the bookkeeper takes everything to the accountant. You know,
The same person.
or some people, you know, for for my business or one of my businesses, I'm the bookkeeper, and then I take everything and I give it to my accountant, and that's his problem now. You know.
No, everything just goes in a
Yeah.
Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
Here we go. I have like learned through the years, or the year and a half though, that like there's ways to make that process easier.
Mhm.
So like I have a checklist of like what needs to go every month.
Yeah.
Then I know that it's complete, so that when I get it, I don't get like an email back that's got like 72 things that I'm missing.
Yeah.
I've never gotten a 72
A
item.
list? No.
I've never gotten a list that big.
It's not a recipe. It's not like
no.
a recipe where there's 72 different things to go into.
No, not like that. What else have I learned or steps that I've taken? I originally thought that I could just do it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big mistake.
Like everything by yourself?
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to come in, make some bread. I had the floor plan all planned out so that I could make sandwiches while people ordered them.
Yeah.
And then realized that that's never going to happen. My parents helped me a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
Then I had to push dad back into retirement, and then mom's business was blowing up at the same time, so she had to step away. I was grateful for their help, and then we got staff, and
That's like a huge thing that people think business like generally you're going into business for yourself. You're an A-type personality, so I'll just do everything myself and get out of my way, and right.
Yeah.
And
your mind's going a mile a minute.
No one's going to do it as good as I will.
Well, I didn't have that.
No?
Yeah. I still don't let people do bread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because it's your name and quality on it, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody comes in and the bread is shit, then they're like, well, who made this?
Yeah.
And so first of all, you don't want to then pawn that off on the new guy or girl.
Yes, I couldn't make a cake like Lindsay, one of our staff members, could. So
yeah. And so what about design and like your storefront and
my storefront design wise, I had a clock from IKEA, handed that clock to my mother and said, build me a store that resembles this clock. And she was like, all right, let's do this. And then like she found all the pictures and I said, okay, I like this and this. And then I got my dad and my brother to help build they did 90% of the work, help build the countertop and the whole counter unit. And then we found we repurposed a bunch of furniture for the tables in our front areas, one table cut in half.
Okay.
And then we stained a big W into it. We used like fireplace for shelving and stuff, so that way. But I lean on my mom a lot because.
Well, that's her industry, right?
Yeah.
Design, decor, I haven't seen you wear a dress yet, so.
No.
No, but
Probably won't happen.
if you need one, you know where to get it.
Although she has I think you guys have the rabbit fur coat.
Which one?
It's like a white fur coat.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to wear that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it came with the store when she bought it, and I was like, yes, I'm wearing this. So every time she's like, I need to get rid of that thing. So.
Does it come like with a top hat?
No,
that would have
it
been
didn't have
something
a
to
top
wear
hat.
to the
Columbus House.
Yeah.
Guy, yeah. I should have gotten.
I saw some of the social media pictures, and there were some pretty wild costumes.
Yeah.
So.
Those events are always fun when there's a theme.
Yeah, I haven't been in a while. I should go, and I often feel that I should go to more of those because it's kind of get out there and see people and network and.
Yeah. Although it's hard when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, your bedtime is like 8:30 max. Somebody invited me out to a movie the other day, and I was like, early show, right? They're like, no, we're going to go to the late show. And I was like, that starts at 9:20, right? So.
I'm the same. Do you have to set an alarm to get up?
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you get up ahead of it?
Most days.
Yeah. Like your body becomes used to that.
You get used to it. And then on Sundays when you don't have to get up early or like when you're on vacation, like I went on my honeymoon and 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I need caffeine in my system or it's going to be a migraine all day.
Yeah. I'm going hunting tomorrow with some clients, like some financial clients. I'm meeting them. So we're hunting in Winchester, which is just kind of south of Ottawa. And I have to be there for 5:15 a.m. So like I'm probably going to get up at 3.
Yeah.
And drive straight there.
But you'll be perfectly awake.
I'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine to drive. And so I have a buddy coming with me, and I told him what time I'm picking him up, and he's like, "Really, in the morning? Like 3 in the morning?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we got to be there for 5:15. It's a 2-hour drive."
Yeah.
He's like, "You're driving, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'll drive." Okay, perfect.
Go on Bird's coffee.
Of course. It's
Yeah.
it'll
Is
keep
that the
me-
only coffee you drink?
Not really, no.
Okay.
It's the preferred choice.
Yeah.
So funny story about this coffee. So we did like taste test after taste test of trying to get
Blends
this
and stuff,
coffee,
yeah.
and it was almost like a wine tasting thing. Like Dan had 10 different coffees.
Yeah, when we were choosing our coffee, like our 3 standard blends, we went to their roastery and tried 7,
Mm-hmm.
and then we narrowed it down to 5, and then I was like, I want more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dan and I went through this process, and then it kind of fell off the rails a little bit, and Dan wasn't quite sure if he wanted to go that route, and the pricing kind of wasn't on point where I needed it to be. So then I went and talked to Arrowhead Coffee, you know, another, I guess one of his competitors or another company, and the coffee wasn't, you know, as good as, in my opinion, Dan's stuff, because of Dan roasts everything small batch.
Yeah.
You know, versus these guys use a big commercial coffee roaster for theirs.
So you've met Amber, his roaster?
What's
Like
that?
his roaster, he nicknamed it Amber because it's red.
Yeah,
It's
So,
beautiful.
yeah, he's got a cool spot there. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, no disrespect or knock to the other guys at Arrowhead. They're, you know, they still have good coffee, and I still buy it from time to time, and support their brand. But it's just, I wanted something that was niche and small, and I don't need a lot of it, and
Yeah.
I don't really overly care that it's a little more expensive, because you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing when you're buying bread. Like, you buy bread at a big commercial bakery and it'll do the trick, but then you can buy, you know, bread that, how many loaves do you make at a time?
Like in a day with all the
In a
different flavors?
batch, we'll
Oh, in a
say.
batch? We do as small, because we have like one mixer, because
Yeah.
that was one thing, like mixers are super expensive.
Yeah.
So we have one mixer that the lowest amount I could probably do is 6 loaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then the highest I've done is 48 at a
Yeah.
time.
Which is still really not a big number
No.
when you think of like a commercial bakery.
Yeah. But that's like 48 of one batch.
Yeah.
So
You know, so,
like Garlic Fest, I think we did 20 of those batches.
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And sold it all?
Yeah. Within 2
Awesome.
days.
Awesome. So going back to my initial question, so you're sole proprietor, you kind of waded into anything you need to do on your own, and now here you are, a year plus later, and what have you kind of learned that was good to do, not so much good to do?
It's good to ask for advice from mentors,
Yeah.
because there's someone, and then take that advice with, I don't want to be rude, but like a grain of salt, because sometimes the advice you get from someone is like, oh, you shouldn't do it this way. Like they'll give you advice on
From their point of view.
well, from their point of view
Yeah.
about how bread should be made. I'll use that example, and you're like, well, if I made bread like that, it would come out like a brick, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's a process that I've worked out. And it's funny because you'll read like several different processes, and then you'll find your one process that works. So it's like getting advice from people. You ask several people, and then you take what you think will work, and then if it works, it works. What else have I learned?
Of course, something that hasn't worked. You're like, I'm going to do this, it's going to be great, and then it was shit.
We were making this really healthy bread
Yeah.
that came out like a brick.
Yeah.
It took...
Like a keto bread? type of thing?
It wasn't keto. It was a spreaded grain loaf that's like very European, and people were buying it thinking
Probably
like,
small, like
that's small. It's like a
condensed.
brick, but it
Yeah.
like we had to charge like obscene amount of money because
Yeah.
it was like a 4-day long process of just making this bread,
Yeah.
and then it took an hour and a half to bake because it was so wet. And then you sell it to people, and you're like, don't cut into it for 12 hours because it had to like cure, which just seems really bad for bread. And then people were coming back like, this isn't bread. And I was like, okay, like I explained the style of bread to you. So you have to sometimes find a way to meet people's expectations of how things should be, even though they're asking for that type of bread.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
what else?
remember I messaged you one time and you never did get back to me. Do you make
I'm
a keto
sorry.
bread?
No, we don't make keto bread.
No. For reasoning why? Goes totally against what you stand for?
Well, we don't make gluten-free bread either.
Yeah, okay.
For the main reason that I've tried, I think, a dozen times to make it.
It's just not good.
It just comes out like a brick, and maybe I'm not using the right flours.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very difficult to do
Yeah, so stick to what you're good at.
because you have to have if you sell something as bread,
Mhm.
everybody wants the Wonder Bread squishy texture, and it's hard to get that without using flour. So
Yeah. So
I
just
originally wanted to come up with something that we'd automatically say to people when they ask for gluten-free stuff.
Yeah.
Like in the movie Coyote Ugly, when somebody asks for water, they spray them with water.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something along those lines, and I was like, this is bad business move, so I'm just not going to do it.
Gluten-free, and you throw
Yeah, like tell
something
people to
at them?
get out or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like the
But-
soup Nazi,
Yeah.
eh? Off of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Responsibilities as a business owner. Now, I can appreciate this. You know, here's a guy who gets up most days at 4 o'clock. How do you have the drive for that? Because I talk to a lot of people that think that they want to be in business, and they want all this, and they want to have that, except they don't want to do this, and this, which is the hard work that's going to make them successful. So what drives you? First of all, to get up that early and to get to the bakery, because you tell me you get up at 4 and you're there at 4:15, and I know where you live and how far it should drive. Like,
Well,
you
there's
must
nobody
drive,
on the road.
You must
so,
drive there in your sleep, you know.
What drives me?
What gets you up doing this, man?
The love of it.
Yeah. So you love what you're doing.
Yeah, and what gets me up that early to do it, I like my alone time, which sounds bad, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy going in, and it's like a meditative state of making bread, because you're dealing with something that is quote unquote alive because of the yeast, and we also use a sourdough starter, which has a name, and so it's like you're working alone, but like there's also so many things that need to be done in one process, so it just keeps you busy the entire time. And the drive of it is like you're not only keeping the business alive, but you're thriving at the same time. There's been times where I've been like, I don't want to do this. This, like, if one more thing goes wrong with this,
I'm quitting. I'm done. Shut
I'm
the
done.
doors.
Like there's days where like it rains or like it's just like pelting snow outside and nobody comes in, and you're just like, why am I doing this? And then the next day you're sold out at 11 and you're like, what did we do? So it's the beast that needs to be fed, if that makes any sense.
I've had those same thoughts, man. Like I'm in the insurance business. Nobody wants to buy life insurance because they're never going to die. Nobody wants to buy critical illness insurance because they're never going to get sick.
Yeah.
And realistically, why do I care if they have it or not?
Yeah.
Like I have mine. I have insurance on me and my little guy and my wife, so why do I care about anybody else?
Yeah.
But then you deliver a death check to somebody, and they're like, man, I'm ever glad I bought this. Or
Yeah.
then you're like, this is why I do this. And, you know, so I feel for you there. Like, you must make a pile of bread, no one shows up to buy it. You make
And
a lot of sandwiches the next day.
Yeah, there was rumors when we first opened that we were going to be a gluten-free bakery.
Okay.
So the first month was like a dozen people a day being like, I thought you guys were going to be gluten-free. Where's the gluten-free stuff? And we're like, no, this is like...
Is there actually a dozen people a day that think that they need to be gluten-free? Like where do these people come from?
I have no idea. The internet is a strange beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get all these random diets saying gluten's bad for you.
I forget what movie it's on, but it's Seth Rogen and that Jay Baruchel, and the two of them are talking about what gluten is.
Oh, really?
Like,
I gotta look that up.
We gotta look that up because it's and for anyone listening or watching, look that up. It's stoned Seth Rogen trying to explain to the other guy like what gluten is and why. Like, this is a gluten and that's a gluten. No, it's funny, man. Like,
there's a scene in Deadpool where he's like, sorry I'm late, I was gathering all the gluten in California and getting rid of it. I was like, yes.
And like Deadpool, that movie is a prime example of like, man, like get with the times here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, everybody's so caught up in their own, you know, what they think they should be.
Yeah. But then we try and succeed, hopefully, in doing some free from food, so like free from dairy and free from wheat and stuff. So that works, but the keto thing is something that's very hard to...
Well, I've looked at how to make keto bread, and it looks like it would taste like that cushion right there.
Yeah.
It looks like that cushion right there. I don't know about that.
Perfectly patterned.
Yeah. So, what else do I want to ask you here? You ever turn business away? People come in now. I mean, there's an example there. People that are looking for gluten, you know, but maybe a bigger order. Can you make bread for this, or can you do this? Like,
Yes, we had a catering company approach us the first few weeks we were open, and they said, we'd like to start using your bread, but we're going to need like 1,000 buns a weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't.
Can't keep up with that demand.
Because there's places that have like a bun machine
Yeah.
that just does it. And then, but if I want to make 1,000 buns, I got to sit there, weigh out each bun, because each bun has to
be the
weigh
same.
the same.
Yeah.
And then you got to shape the buns. So it's like it's a beast
Yeah. No.
to just take on
Unless
that.
they're going to pay an exorbitant amount of money, which they probably wouldn't. They're looking for the cheapest buns at the best price.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Other events that you'd like to do or stuff you'd like to get into doing? Not off the top of your head.
not on the top of my head. I'm not a huge like pressure. Like I don't want to do weddings because it's the most important day of someone's
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
And if
yeah.
you ruin it,
Like
everybody
making
will hear
wedding
about it.
cakes for
So like,
people.
not that I would, not that I'm like not confident that I would not ruin it or
Yeah.
I would ruin it, but it's a lot of pressure to be under. So we've done like late lunches for people and stuff.
Mhm.
I really enjoy the community-oriented stuff. Like we did the maple brunch for Care For
Okay.
in, I think, last January, which was awesome. I lost, but it was awesome because it's like it's in the community. I worked for Care For a short time in high school.
So you knew people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's worth it because you see where the money's going.
One thing I haven't asked other people on this show, but I want to ask you, and I'm going to continue to ask going forward, is how do you take vacation or downtime? You know, you said, for example, you don't trust anybody to make bread for you. So how do you? I know you guys went on a trip this summer for how
Yes.
long? Week or so?
A week.
How do you manage to do that? Because that's something I struggle with, man. I can't put it away.
You try and go when it's slow,
Yeah.
so that you know like your staff could mostly handle it. Well, they did handle it, I guess. Though I can't say I guess, that's an insult to them. They handled it very well.
Yeah.
But we cut down the types of bread we did during that week. We kept it like super simple menu, and people were
Prepare
okay with
for
it.
it.
People like, especially when you, like our regulars were like, yeah, you deserve it, go. Like, I'm okay with eating.
Normal bread for a week.
Yeah, normal. Like, I don't need to be complicated this week. Like, I'm okay with not having 7 different types of cookies to choose from.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you have to make that time, because if you don't make that time and you work every day for the rest of your life.
Are you open
you're-
every day? You have a day closed? Sundays?
No,
Yeah.
Sundays we're closed,
Yeah.
but we're in there for 3 to 4 hours.
Prepping,
for the
cleaning,
week.
and getting ready for the
Yeah.
next week. Ordering, getting
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so downtime is something you've been able to, in the first year of being there, kind of.
For sure.
Because it's hard, man.
Yeah, it is.
You guys, I assume,
I
I know,
haven't taken vacation, I don't know how long.
you know.
Like, we closed for a week, and the first time we left, we closed for a week because our staff wanted to go on vacation as well.
Yeah.
And it was January, and
Yeah.
typical slow month. But I was getting messages on the beach being like, how dare you close? And I was like, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
and then you get people who comment on and social media is
Oh, it's a monster.
everybody has
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people think that you don't ever work ever?
How many what?
How many times have you heard, oh, you guys don't ever work anyway, ever? You just take photos all the time, or you just bake bread. Oh, it's an easy job, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
You're like, oh, I want to open a bakery. It's
Yeah.
going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I got to get up when? Yeah.
Well,
Well-
it's interesting. You know, I don't know if you touched on the question, but like being the baker and doing that, what are some of the hurdles just getting that business running where you are, right? Like we don't talk about that a lot. Like we talk about what we've done, but like when we think about the stuff we had to do just to get that going, like
Yeah.
what are some of those hurdles?
Well, financially, in the hospitality business, nobody will look at you.
Oh, I know, like from a lending point of view?
Yeah,
I
lending
know.
point of view, it's so risky.
Yeah.
So you.
Well, there's such a high turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you want to open a restaurant? Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then like doing the background education on it, you need, like, someone could be like, oh yeah, like I make chocolate chip cookies every day, so I'm good to go. I put in the hours. I went to school.
Speaking of school, like how did that hospitality program train you for what you're doing?
There's
Or
certain
did- or
things.
did it?
It did.
Yeah.
It, like, major help. Like costing. People would be like, oh yeah, like Tim Hortons charges 75 cents for a cookie. I don't know what they charge, but they charge 75 cents for a cookie, so I'll charge 65 so that I can undercut them and I'll get the sale.
Yeah.
And then you think about it and you're like, actually that cookie cost me 35 cents and I'm only making this, and then it takes me like an hour to make it, and now I have to pay someone to make it. So you're like, well, I'm actually losing money selling a cookie. So the education point, you learn all that stuff. You're already 3 steps ahead of someone that has just made cookies at home.
Like one thing I learned is to set your price, like set the precedent. This is what it costs. These are
Yeah.
right. Cookies, and they're $2. If you don't want to buy one, then you don't buy one. That's fine.
Yeah.
But there are people that will buy them for $2, and
Yeah.
that's who I'm catering to.
But we do, I like to say we price with our hearts
Yeah.
on some things, because sometimes the bread just doesn't rise as much as you want it to, or it's not as big as it usually is. So if someone does say like, okay, you're charging $2.50 for that, yet, so like it was like this big yesterday and now it's this big today,
Mhm.
but you're still charging the same price. Sometimes you're like, yeah, okay, I'm giving you,
Knock a buck off. Or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, exactly.
especially when you, like the croissant products that we make them by hand. So sometimes you don't get pure butter through all the layers and it doesn't rise as much as you want it to. So you end up selling it at, you don't sell it at a loss, but you sell it like 25 cents cheaper
Yeah.
because it's not as big. Or sometimes you cut them, you portion them smaller by mistake, so you just end up selling them 2 for 1 because
Yeah.
they're getting the same amount, but they're getting 2.
Yeah. Cool, man. You're giving a piece of advice to somebody that's getting into business, not necessarily your industry, but just becoming a self-employed. What's something that you would tell somebody getting into business? Like, hey, do this, don't do that. What, you know?
You're stronger than you think you are.
Yeah.
Like, you've already made the decision to start something. So follow it through, and when you think you've done enough or you have had enough, just keep going. Because your body is, like I've had, the first week we did the farmer's market and had the bakery open, we were there from like 2 to 2. You're like, you never thought that was possible, but yet here you are doing it. So you're stronger than you'll ever be being an entrepreneur. Yeah.
You find you just think as like make it up as you go, like one of those choose your own adventure books. Sometimes.
Yes.
I'll just do this,
Yeah.
and I'll just okay.
Definitely.
You know, you're kind of a bit of a fire problem solver, just like
Yeah. Yet I've learned from that to plan everything out meticulously.
No, it's
Like, I can't say like December 12th. Okay, like Christmas cookies for the 25th. Like, you got to start planning. Like, we started planning that in August.
yeah, because you might have a specific thing or an item that you need for Christmas
Yeah.
cookies, and they're on sale in August, so you pick up a little bit of that and sock
Yeah.
it away for later. You know.
Which is something we learned I learned through working with franchise restaurants.
Yeah.
They put their menu out, or they plan their menu like months in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I guess working at Boston Pizza would be a huge help. for
Yeah.
you, like
I
you
learned
know,
a lot
how
there.
they do things on a big scale. You know, I know Daryl treats people well, which is
Yeah.
a huge thing too. So
And they're huge on being prepared.
yeah,
Daryl used to always say, set yourself up for success.
yeah.
I used to roll my eyes at that all the time, and now I'm like, I'm just setting myself up for
You're like
success.
stupid Daryl. He's always
Yeah.
right, eh? Hey?
They're great people, though. Like, an example of that where they portioned everything.
Yeah.
And when I first opened, I was like weighing everything as I needed it to mix it. And now I have like 17 bags of heritage white bread
Yeah.
dough,
Already
like the dry
pre-portioned.
mixed,
Yeah.
pre-portioned, so I can just add it to, which cut my time in the morning down way.
I worked at G'day's for years, and probably 5 years, and I see people working in the kitchen, and I think a lot of that is not wasting steps, right? Like,
Yeah.
You know, you see the guys that are good in the kitchen that can whip stuff up quick, and they get a system going. They have
Yeah.
stuff pre-portioned. They know how long it takes to cook that, so
Yeah.
you know they don't put this down in the fryer until this is almost ready, and then they drop those real quick. And
Yeah.
you know, I can see that obviously with baking, everything's time sensitive and,
Mhm.
and ingredient sensitive and portion sensitive. So
Yeah.
you.
Like there's been situations where I've been like, did I put yeast in that? And then like 3 hours later, I'm like, didn't put yeast in that. Let's start over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
How long does it take to bake the bread from time it goes in the oven until it's ready?
half an hour to
Half
45
an hour,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah. Ish.
And probably the same to get it ready to rock, like mix it and
No.
no.
We old term, but we retard the bread overnight. So you put it in the fridge,
Yeah.
and then it slowly rises. So the gluten has more time. You get more flavor development. The sourdough has like time to develop the little pockets that are characteristic of sourdough, and then it goes in the oven the next morning.
Cool. Speaking of old terms, you brought your recipe book here, which looks
Yes.
a little tattered. Tell me about
Slightly
this.
worn. So this is a typewritten version of my. Is it in the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. Typewritten version of my grandfather's recipe books, or great-great-grandfather's,
Yeah.
sorry. I have his handwritten ones as well. So this is the bread recipe that I used learning how to make bread.
Cool.
And then we have some like recipes that we still use in the bakery. And it's interesting though, because it's all like just quantities and ingredients, no directions, no nothing. So you're
Probably no
like,
pictures, eh?
no pictures, no instructions at all, and you're just like, okay, let's try it this way. And then sometimes it works, and sometimes it's like, what were you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And the people's taste buds in 1920 were totally different than people's taste buds in 2018.
You don't think they had a sriracha bread in 2020?
No, I don't think they had a sriracha bread. They had like the sugar. There's some recipes in there where like an entire cheesecake is only a quarter cup of sugar, whereas if you look at one now, it's like 2.5 cups.
Now,
or
would
like-
that have been taste buds? Would that have been cost back then?
Probably
Like,
cost,
You know,
but
sugar
at the
would,
same
sugar would have
time,
been maybe expensive, or
at the
or-
same
or-
time, people accepted that and probably enjoyed it.
yeah.
So, and he used to make amazing wedding cakes. So,
Cool. Do you guys make wedding cakes?
no,
No, not yet.
I've only made one,
Yeah?
and I didn't enjoy it.
No.
No, because it's the pressure of. You probably know this from like if you do weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to have that perfect shot or that perfect cake, and it's got to be.
Perfect. Everything's gonna
Yeah.
be perfect on the wedding day, eh?
And then the person wanted red velvet, and I was like, God, if this doesn't come out red enough, and they're expecting this, and yeah.
Cool. So like I said earlier, we're doing this podcast to try to showcase entrepreneurialism. We're kind of working downtown Pembroke and out. Who would you like to see on here? Who's a mentor of yours maybe you'd like to see on here?
Your mom. Yeah. You can't say your mom.
I'm trying to think of someone other than mom.
Well, let's say mom for sure.
Yeah, mom for sure.
Okay.
Patricia from Leap. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
have had her.
No, we have
Or-
not. She's on the list though.
And then someone who is like not in my industry at all, who has given us a lot of advice is Lisa Edmonds.
Cool. Cool. Well, Lisa's on queue for 2 weeks. We'll see if.
2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. She's never told me how to make bread, but she's told me how to run a successful business.
Yeah.
So
Lisa's great. Lisa's.
Yeah.
We've been waiting to get Lisa on here for a while. I talked to Lisa on the phone on Tuesday of last week, and she was like, "Podcast? What's it? What's the podcast? Tell me about this." And so she's going to get a 2018 update of how we broadcast the news here, I guess.
she's all about mixing she calls the new guard with the old guard, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's interesting. So when I was 2020 or so, 2021, her husband Tony, like approached me to sell real estate. Like I was working at a gas station at the east end of Pembroke.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember Mike's Ultramar, the Ultramar station that was there.
Is that on the other side of the road?
Yeah, it's no longer there.
Yeah.
You know, and so Tony showed up one day. I was pumping gas, and he's like, "Hey, listen," he's like, "I've been meaning to stop and talk to you. I'd like you to come sell real estate for me." And I'm like, "Okay, like, how do I do that?" And he's like, "Just come down and talk to me at the office. We'll sort it out, and I'll show you how to do it." So I kind of went and talked to him and started along my real estate agent career. Took the real estate license, failed it, wrote it again, failed it again. Just wasn't for me. Not so much that I don't think it would have been a good real estate agent.
It's really hard to get into.
I'm not good at taking, like, memorize, write it on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
I never have been, ever since I was a kid, right? And so I always have struggles with these tests you have to take. And so anyway, I didn't end up selling real estate for Tony, but we've been, you know, Tony's a relative of mine, kind of distantly. His mother was a Lapierre, good family friend, and so I've always had a really good, you know, feeling chatting with Tony and talking, and then with Lisa.
Yeah.
And so fast forward a bunch of years later, Lisa called me looking for, you know, we have this position to kind of manage, you know, insurance offices, and we need somebody to kind of come here and do these, and this is what it would be. And I said, well, I'm really happy with what I'm doing here now, you know, working as a financial advisor. But I have a guy that's from Ottawa looking to move back to the Valley. So
I may know that guy.
And so I sent Lisa a call and told her to call Dan, and then so Dan is Andrew's partner, and now here they are. So kind of cool. So so yeah, Lisa is definitely on the list to get on this couch here. So, and your mom for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Dan's been a huge part of our business too. So.
Yeah, of course. You know, and there's
like I said, I can't do accounting, but he's.
Yeah. Well, Dan has that bit of background, right?
Yeah.
So
he knows how to run.
But you keep him out of the kitchen, though?
He's actually very good in the
Really?
kitchen. Yeah, he was, Lisa used to call him the soup Nazi, actually.
Oh, really?
Because he used to come in and make the soups after being at work all day.
That's funny.
Yeah. And then I took that over.
How do people get a hold of you? Social media?
We're on Facebook, Instagram.
You know.
Wilkie's Fresh Baked Bread.
Yeah.
I think we're Wilkie's Bread on Instagram.
What are your hours?
7:30 to 4, and then 8 to 2 on Saturdays.
Cool. So people can just walk in. You're right downtown Pembroke, a couple blocks from where we're recording right now.
Yes.
Did you drive here today, or did you walk over?
I walked.
Hey, right on.
Raced over with my coffee, shoving food in my mouth furiously.
So the last question I always ask people: what does it mean for you to be an entrepreneur?
It means that I'm making things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody said, "Well, you're a slave to your business because you're running it. You're like you're an entrepreneur for yourself." I said, "I'm actually not a slave for this business. I'm thriving, and you can't say that. Like, I feel like being a slave is torturous, and thriving is like a glorious thing to say."
Yeah. Have you ever thought about going to work for someone else? You know, and I always use the example, like go get a job at CNL and drive that same road every day and come home.
I actually said that if we lived in the city, I would love to be the mail person with the grocery cart that goes like all the 22 stories and dropping off mail.
Yeah.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Like a courier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be that person that
See, I worked as a courier for 5 years.
knows all the gossip and everything.
It was great. You know, I was a county courier, so we drove a truck,
but I couldn't imagine doing that. My Percy Wilkinson, the original baker, had a bakery in 1920, closed because there was a depression. I went to work for Weston bread company, and then 1936 reopened the bakery.
Just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, like could you imagine like being like, well, I got to close because it's a depression. I'm gonna go work for the man.
I have a buddy that did that. You know, he just left. Couldn't handle it. Went and started his own business. Happiest guy ever. And when he was there, he just was miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying where he was or what he was doing, but you know. And so yeah, I think of that when people say that you're a slave to your work. You guys must feel like that too. It's like you feel like you're not working. Like it's not that you're not working.
I feel like I'm working all the time.
But do you feel like it's not?
But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I'm
It's
not,
enjoyable.
I'm not like, oh my god, I gotta try and get people in today, or oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I gotta do this. It's
Yeah.
every day I think we have in here is an exciting day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How often do I get to have other people come into a place that I work and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's hang out and talk for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Like I'd rather be watching the clock because I got to get to something else cool than watching the clock. Like, man, I hate this, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to get out of here. You know, so speaking of get out of here, I'm gonna get back to the bakery.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks for having taking the time to come in here. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll cut her off there.